you prefer. If you need a presentation, let me know.
No, I can introduce myself. That's all right. And I'd love to hear from the people here as well quickly to know what your expectations are for this class. This is going to be a very short introduction to a very broad topic, but I will share some resources for you to dive deeper if you're curious. So consider this like a tasting platter, a teaser to what can be done with creative coding. And if you have questions in the future, you're always free to DM me on Discord. I'm there, or Twitter as well. So hi, I'm Raphael. I'm originally from France. Grew up in Paris, and I currently live and have been living for the last 10 years in Berlin. Vibrant, creative city, which I love. And I've been doing creative coding. I've been making art with computer code essentially for the last 10 years in one form or another. And I also run a community in Berlin called Creative Code Berlin, and we have 2 meetups every month. One is a sort of show and tell format where people can come and show anything they want for 10 minutes. There's no invited speakers or anything. It's very spontaneous. Sort of open mic for creators working with code. And I am on Twitch, and I do 2 streams every week. One is a creative coding challenge where I review what people are making on the topic of the week. And the other one is sort of a news segment. I call it Creative Code News. And I show some of the interesting, inspiring things that I've seen other artists or creators make during the last 7 days. And that's every Tuesday. Tomorrow will be the next one. And that's it. As I was telling Mathilde before, I just recovered from COVID last week. I'm still a little bit floaty in the head, so excuse me if if I'm looking for my words at some point. I can blame COVID for that. And fortunately this is remote, so you're safe. All right, but I'm curious to hear from everybody very quickly, like in one sentence. Maybe you can tell us who you are and what your expectations are for this class. Should I name names? Let me see. How can I see everybody?
Also, if you can't talk right now, feel free to use the chat, of course. If you
All right. Yes. If you don't want to use the microphone,
if you
wait.
want, I can start from the list that I have, or if you, as you prefer.
Yeah. Could you handle this, because I'm not sure how to see the list of people and the chat at the same time and
Yeah, no, I
everything.
know. So the first one is actually Ahmad, but actually you already talked with him. I don't know if you want to add
Right.
something, Ahmad. Yeah. And then we have Chabeli. So you
just
decide,
wanted to give you a very brief about what I'm doing and what I'm going to expect from this. I'm a 3D artist, CG designer. I create motion graphics, and I really would like to integrate this creative coding into my motion graph, kind of
Okay.
projecting them into my 3D stuff that I make, animating them.
Okay.
That's what I want to do. Just wanted to give you a brief of what I'm looking for here. Thank you.
Thanks. That's great. Yeah. So
Hi
Chabeli.
there. Hi there. My name is
Hi.
Saberi. I'm a Cuban illustrator, and nice to have you here. I hope you are recovering well from COVID. I had
Thanks.
it too, and I feel I feel very, And so I expect from this class to get to really have a perspective about creative coding, because I haven't seen anything like that before here in Cuba, or I don't know either other people who may have been related with creative coding. So I'm really curious and looking forward to your class to get to know this subject better and awake a curiosity for this further. So thank you so much for being here.
Cool. Wonderful. Thank you.
we have
Who's next?
Chris. Yeah, Chris.
Hey, thanks so much for being here. I'm a sort of new media and projection artist, working in branching into machine learning algorithms. So there's a sort of touch of creative coding there. I think creative coding in general is like wizardry. I'm really just looking forward to like getting a look under the hood, because I have no idea how some of these masters, including yourself, are doing this. So share your secrets, please. I want to know.
Wonderful. Will do. Yeah, next up.
Claudia?
Hello, I'm Claudia. So I'm a photographer based in Toronto, Canada. And I mainly work a lot with analog processes such as medium format film, most recently some cyanotypes. And the way I kind of navigate my arts practice is, especially with new technologies, I really like trying to find ways to overlay my practice with these new technologies such as AI most recently, and now with creative coding. So I don't really know anything about creative coding, if I'm being completely honest, but I have, like Chris said, just to see what's under the hood, just to see if I can find ways to intersect my practice with that.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks. Who's next?
Denu?
Did you say Daniel?
No, actually, I say Denu,
Oh,
not the
okay.
artist. But I see that maybe they can't talk right now. So if you want to go on, Daniel, this time.
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Earth Sampler Daniel. I'm a sort of lens-based artist. I'm in Toronto right now. I'm from Toronto, but I've been living in Montreal for the past couple of months. So I did a lot of processing work in university, but it wasn't sort of framed in a art-centric manner. It was more so, we had to build like simple games and stuff like that. But I've been interested in somehow implementing processing /P5 into the work that I do. So this is sort of like a refresher for me, and just getting reoriented with the program.
Wonderful. Yeah, I hope we can provide that. Next up, we have whom?
So we have Dylan, but I see that he's writing right now. Exactly. So
Okay.
he introduced himself in the chat. And also Jean, I think, is typing too, as well as Danu. So let's go on with Michael now.
Hey, how are you doing? I do animation, basically. I think I would love to do coding. Like since entering the space, I think it's absolutely amazing what you guys are doing. It's fairly mind blowing on a daily basis, I think. I did like a little class with you before, a little online class. But I don't know why I'm quite scared of trying it. I'm not quite ready yet, I think. So maybe this is the icebreaker. But I've never done any coding. I think I did like a bit of, like my brother had a Commodore 128 in the 80s, and I think we sometimes copied a bit of script, being kids, and made some circle spin. But I guess that's like 35 years ago, so I can't remember, sadly.
Yeah, that's still some experience. That's great.
Maybe.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, next up, how many more people do we have who didn't talk?
We have the last one, Santiago.
Yeah. Santiago. Hi. Yeah, we can't hear you. You're muted. Santiago?
Santiago, you're now muted. Okay, no, you're not.
Now?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now
I
I
can
can hear you.
I'm talking. Oh, I'm
Yes.
sorry.
No worries.
So I'm mostly an abstract painter or drawing artist, and I have been learning some basic coding, like watching the first 5 videos of the coding train, I think, or maybe 10, and I have done some little things with P5, and I would like to know more.
Cool. Yeah, wonderful. Okay, so there's it sounds like there's like a wide range of experiences. I know that you have Ana Lucia in your cohort as well, who's going to join later, who's already a pro. So yeah, I'm gonna take it from the very start, and I'll provide resources for going deeper. If you already have some experience, this might be a little basic, but please feel free to ask questions, and hopefully we manage to touch on a few slightly more advanced topics. But it's gonna remain a creative coding 101 for sure. So yeah, okay, let's get into it. So the one thing we're gonna use for this intro is called P5JS. So you've heard the name dropped by some of your classmates, and this is a tool. It's called a library, a JavaScript library. In the context of code, a library is basically computer code that has been written by other people, so you don't have to, and it provides a lot of convenient little things that mean that you can you can get quickly to a result that otherwise you would have to write a lot of code just to draw a circle on a screen, for example. And in this case, you don't have to worry about that because it's been done by the nice people who created P5JS. P5JS, if you want to know more about it, you can go to p5js.org, and there you will see they explain quite clearly the mission statement of P5, which is to make coding more accessible and also inclusive. And they have a pretty strong ethical mission behind the existence of the tool. And if you want to learn more about the origins of P5, which I definitely recommend if you get into this, there's a beautiful episode of Artists and Hackers about it. It's a podcast. So yeah, Artists and Hackers. I'll put the link somewhere, and they have really nice stories about people using technology in a creative context, especially code. And yeah, that's the one. They have a very community-driven idea, so everybody can get involved in the creation of the tool, no matter how much of a beginner they are. And I really like that. And it's made in the spirit of the previous tool that was made by people in the same group called Processing, that also somebody mentioned before. And Processing is now more than 20 years old. It celebrated its 20 years anniversary just last summer, and it was also made in order to make coding more accessible to artists in particular. And it still exists. It's still being developed. It's a beautiful tool. But the reason why I picked P5JS rather than Processing for this introduction is that P5 is a tool that you can use to create things that run inside of a web browser. And why is this nice? Is, well, for many reasons, but first of all, it makes it easier to share and show other people. Second of all, a lot of the art that you see on NFT platforms such as FX Hash or Hiketnung / Teya or Versum, when it runs in the browser, well, it's made very often with P5JS or similar tools. In any case, JavaScript. So you don't need to know everything about JavaScript to get started with P5. If you do know a little bit of JavaScript, that's definitely helpful. But all you really need to do is to go to editor.p5js.org, and you will see this very similar page, which is the online editor. And with this online editor, we're going to be able to write some code. You can see that when you open it, there's already some code written. I added this there. That was just me taking notes. But by default, it will look like this. And we can start to unpack this and understand what this is. But first, I want to tell you a bit about the interface. So here you have this nice play and stop buttons, which, as you may imagine, are going to run and stop the program. And so if I press play right now, you see that it creates a square, a gray square on the right. And this is our canvas, literally, that's called a canvas, and it's like what we're going to draw onto. So P5.js, by default, is a language that you can use to make visuals. You can also make things interactive, you can make sounds, but the default mode is sort of mostly visual. And I from what I heard from people here, you're also mostly visual artists. But yeah, you can also make sounds or add sounds or even make music through P5.js. So that's not what it's mostly made for. And yeah, so we press play and it plays. Right now, nothing is really happening because we haven't told the program to do anything else. And here you will see that yeah, you can open sketches that you've saved before, or save or create a new sketch. A program in P5 is called a sketch. There's a bunch of things here like find and replace, tidy code. That's if you have your code a little messy, like things are not set properly. There's too much space here and there. If I click on tidy, boom, it puts everything nice and tidy again. Makes sense. Here we can add new files, like if you want to import images, like some of you are illustrators, you might want to add a sprite. That's an image that you can move around. You can do this there. And the help has a link to the reference. That's going to be your best friend. The reference has all the keywords that exist in the language that, well, in the library, in the P5 library. It's not exactly a language. Language is JavaScript. But this is the place that might be a bit intimidating right now. But actually, you're going to come to love this place because this is where you can go to check which functions, which keywords are available for you to use in P5. Do we have any questions so far? That's like the very basic stuff. Sorry for the coughing. I warned you. Any questions? No? Okay. So if I'm moving too fast or too slow, please do let me know. Don't wait until the end because it will be too late. Okay? All right. So, but yeah, feel free to unmute and ask a question. I won't be annoyed to be interrupted. Quite the opposite. So please do it. Okay. Yeah. So by default, your sketch is going to have a silly name that is generated automatically. I don't know what Rgb Onion stands for, but that's all right. I usually give it a name. I forgot we're in 2022 now. Based on the date 0314, and it's going to be VCA Memorial. Yep. Question? Luis Ricardo. Ah, no, somebody who joined. Yes, we can hear your microphone. Welcome. So yeah, okay. And you can rename and save only if you're logged in. So you might want to do that if you're getting in there for the first time. Let me see. I'm going to show you how it looks. So yeah, log in, and if you have a GitHub account, you can use that. If you don't, that's okay. You can just create an account. Or log in with a Google account if you have that. So yeah, this will let you start saving and giving a name to your sketch and so on. For now, it probably doesn't really matter, but just know that if you don't see the same things that I have here, it's probably because you're not logged in. Wait. So. All right. Yeah. So let's unpack this now. So we here see that there's something called a function called setup and another function called draw. And those are the two main building blocks of any P5.js program. The setup is some code that is going to run once at the beginning. When you press the play button, this thing is going to be interpreted. But it's only going to do it once at the moment when you press the play button, right after you press it. And then the draw function is something that runs again and again and again. And if this is not quite clear right now, it's going to become more clear when we start actually drawing stuff. So here we have inside of the setup, we have something called create canvas. This is also a function, but it has been defined by P5. It's in the library. So it's in the if it's in the library, it's part of the keywords that we are allowed to use. And then it has numbers here in these parentheses. And these are called parameters or arguments, depending where you look at it from. And they are basically, like the way that you can configure the function to do something. A function is a bit like a little machine, and it has sliders and buttons, and you can turn them on and off, and then it will do something different. You can think of it like this. Like a little black box with buttons on the front, and if you tweak these buttons, like the numbers are going to change, and then it's going to give a different result. So what do you think those numbers mean in create canvas? What would make sense?
Would those be the dimensions?
Yes. And what do you think the unit for these dimensions is?
Pixels?
Yes,
Awesome.
exactly. And so, yeah, we have the left one and the right one. So what do you think those are for? Anybody? Like, what is the left one? What is the right one? If you had to guess. If you have it open, you can also tweak those numbers and you will see for yourself. So let's see. If I tweak
X and
this.
Y?
Yes, so x and y, yeah, width and height. So yeah, x typically, if you remember your geometry classes at school, the x dimension is the horizontal and the y dimension is the vertical, and this is going to become useful very soon. But yeah, if I change it, you see that now my canvas is wider and the height hasn't changed. Sorry. One thing that is very useful here, and I want to emphasize right from the beginning, is that if you, by default, if we set the dimensions, we don't touch it, they're gonna stay like this. There is a way to make it change and become responsive, like stay the same size as the window. And if I type instead of window width and window height. These are also keywords that exist in P5 in P5.js. They're called variables. We'll see more about them very soon. You can create your own variables, which is very useful, but those are built-in. They're built-in variables. So if I do this, now you see that it has the size of the window that contains it. But if I change the size, it stays the same size. So this is going to be a problem. But we'll fix this in a short while, and we'll get back to it. I want to explain what the draw does. So you can see that the setup only runs once, also because of that. Because if I change it, it doesn't recreate the canvas as there's a different window width and window height, even though those variables have changed value when I changed this. Then in the draw function, we have background 220. So what do you think this 220 means? Any idea?
The RGB value or something?
Yes. So almost, but you're on the right track. So it is a color. It defines the color of the background. So if you have it open, try different values. So if I set it to 0, it's going to be black. If I set it to, it was at 150. No, it was 200. Yes, 150 is a darker shade of gray. And you can type any number that you want. But now you might have a question, which is, what is the range of those values? And remember what I said about the reference? Well, this is where the reference become very useful, because you can go there and search for background. You see that it's going to suggest a bunch of things that have back in it. And there I can go to background and see, okay, so it can accept different, there's different ways that we can use the background function. It's a function, we can tell it's a function because it has these parentheses at the right. typically that's a giveaway for something that is a function, and meaning that it's going to accept parameters or arguments. And here you see that if I have one value, it's going to be a grayscale value. And it can also accept several parameters, and then it's going to be, as you said, RGB, or we can have different color modes, but let's not get into this yet. What we wanted to know is the range, and here you can look into the description, and if you read it, you will come across this sentence here. The default color space is RGB, yeah, that's good, with each value in the range from 0 to 255. And this range is a very typical range for computers for reasons that I'm not going to get into. Yeah, so we can go from 0 to 255. If we go over this 255, well, it's just going to clamp it in this case. In some other languages, it might throw an error. It might tell us like, oh, this is wrong. This value doesn't exist. But here, we can just make the value higher. It's just going to get white, and then it's going to stay white. So I guess we could also make a negative value and it just stays black. Yeah. So it's from 0 to 255, and it's not going to complain if it's a different value. If it's out of range, it's not going to complain, but it's just not going to make a difference. Does that make sense? Is everybody still with me with me here? All good? If not, please let me know. Okay. So yeah, so if we wanted to make it a color, we can do that by putting 3 parameters, for example. And here it's going to be a nice orange. And let's see what brownish, not so great. Yeah, green. Okay, that's cool. I mean, if you want to pick a different color, an RGB color, well, you could fire up Photoshop or something. But yeah, RGB color picker, you'll find something. If we want to get a specific color, we can go to any website that has a color picker and pick something. So let's say I want a nice, not too strong blue, cyan, something like that. Yeah, let's do that. And I can copy these values here, go there, paste them, and there we get the color. Okay. That's good. All right, next. Well, this is cool. This is already cool, but not the most exciting. We can do better. We can do better than that. We could draw a circle, for example. So let's go and do that. There's a function for a circle. And what do you think the parameters for a circle might be? What would make sense?
Radius?
Yes. Yeah, that makes sense. So, I mean, I could enter a value and say like 50. And there it says, it is complaining. So here you can discover something else, that is the console. And the console is something that you can, that you and P5.js and any kind of JavaScript code can use to communicate with you things. So you can have your program communicate with you through the canvas, but also through the console. And here, P5.js is telling us Circle is expecting at least 3 arguments, but received only 1. Remember, arguments, they are these numbers that we pass, or numbers or values or variables that we pass to a function. And here it says, yeah, it doesn't accept 1. So for example, background, you saw it can take 1 argument and then it's gray, or 3 and then it's RGB. But circle, it doesn't accept only 1. You need to give it more. And what do you think the other 2 arguments might be for a circle? So we have the radius.
Coordinates?
Yes, the coordinates, so the position on the canvas. So our canvas is right now window width and window height. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to make it numbers again, just because it's going to make it easier to understand what's going on. Let's make it 500 by 500. Yeah, that's good. So we'll get back to the dynamic size later. So yeah, the X and Y coordinates. And again, if you wanted to check that for yourself, if you don't have anyone to ask, you can just look into the reference, type circle, look it up, and there you will see the syntax is here and says X, Y, and D. So we've seen there's an example, usually a description, and then the syntax. And in the syntax, it tells you what the parameters or arguments are for the function. And there it's X, the X coordinate, so horizontal, the Y coordinates, so vertical, and the diameter. Actually, it's diameter, not radius, but I also get this mixed up all the time. So yeah, it's the size, the diameter of the circle. So yeah, what if we put it at 0, 0? First of all, let's do that. So here you'll see that the coordinate system starts at the top left. This is not a given. There are programming languages where it starts at the bottom left, but in P5.js, it's at the top left. And when we make the value go higher, so here the X coordinate, so the horizontal, if it gets higher, it goes more to the right. Say we want to put it in the middle to 250. That's half of 500, right? And here 250, and then we have it in the center. Okay, yeah, all good so far? So now we have a nice circle in the center. But what if I decided that I want to change the size of the canvas? What if it gets smaller? What if I resize the window and I had it being dynamic? What would happen then? Well, let's see. So if I make the window 280 by 280, for example, the canvas, sorry, then you see it's still at 250 by 250, so it's in the bottom right of the canvas. That's not what we want. We wanted to have it in the middle, right? So for this, we will need to make these arguments here change automatically based on the size of the canvas. And the way that we can do this, we go to the reference, we can look up width, for example, and this is a system variable that stores the width of the drawing canvas. That's useful. So yeah, when you set create canvas, it will define the values of width, and you can imagine there's another variable called height that is dependent of it. And so if I do width, height, it's going to be at the bottom right. And how would I put it in the middle then? There's a trick.
Divide the value by half.
Divide the value by half, exactly. So you can do mathematical operations inside of these arguments. And instead, if I do like width divided, so the slash here is divided by 2, instead of these letters, there's going to be the value that is going to be passed to circle. So same for height, divided by 2. And now it's in the middle. And so if I go back to set it to 500 by 500, now it's still in the middle, which is great. And because if we go back to our window height, window width, and now I'm going to show you how to make it dynamic. So now it's the size of the containing window, but we want it to resize. And for this, I'm going to search resize. So you see window resized. And window resized is another function. We have setup and draw, but we also have window resized. And it's a function that's called once every time the browser window is resized. It's a good place to resize the canvas, etc., etc. So we could just copy and paste this. Paste, copy and paste, and you see it already has a function inside called resize canvas, and it's passing it the new window width and window height. So now when I do this, see, when I resize it, it stays in the middle. That wouldn't be the case if I was doing it the way that we did it before, which was this, right? Here, if I set it static, it has a static coordinate based on the top left. Is that okay for everybody? Sounds like it. Okay. Do we have any questions so far? We're still going through relatively basic things, but if you've never done any programming, this might still be challenging. So it would be totally okay if you had a question at this point.
I was wondering how you pulled. I don't know if I blinked or how did you pull the window resize function from the glossary from the reference section?
Oh yeah, good question. So I selected it and went Control C, copy. So could also do copy and then pasted it in there. Paste. So wait.
So you can just keep adding and adding and
You
adding
can
in
just
that
copy
little.
paste.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. So here we have a relatively small program, but programs can become much longer. It can be hundreds of lines of code. It's actually quite rare that a program would be so small. And you can just keep writing. And the way that it works, something I probably should have mentioned before, is that your browser has something called an engine, or I guess an interpreter. I'm not entirely clear on the what's under the hood, but sorry. So in the browser, there's an engine that is going to read your code and interpret it, and out of this code is going to create what you see on the right. So this is the DNA in a way, and this is the creature that comes out on the other end of that process. Is it weird? Huh. Wait, what did I do? Oh, I messed it up. See, I wrote window height and window width, but it's window width and window height. So that's a teachable opportunity. So remember when we had the error? So when you do something like trying to draw a circle without the right number of arguments, you're going to get an error. But if you do something that is technically correct, but not what you wanted to do, it's not going to tell you that you made a mistake. You're going to have to figure that out yourself. So here in the setup, I put the coordinates, the width and height in the wrong order. So I made the width be the height of the window and the height be the width of the window. And that's not what we want. We want to have the width be the width and the height be the height. And so if I switch it now, it's correct from the beginning. And now when I resize, it's this one takes over. Yeah. So I was saying your browser is reading this code and creating a canvas out of it. And it's reading it from top to bottom. So the setup is read first, and then it's going to read the draw, and then it goes inside of the draw, read the background. So it's going to draw the background, the color that you specified, and then read that you want to draw a circle. So it's going to draw a circle. And if you want to draw something more, you will have to write it there. So I can keep adding more circles or draw other things and add lines and lines and lines. So I could do another circle and place it like, say, divide by 4 here instead. And there you go. So now we have another circle that is in a different position. And I could keep doing that. So if I wanted, I could also multiply by 0.75 to put it at the other side, and yeah, there you go. Does it make sense? So the way that this works, some of the functions are called. So each of these functions, actually, the setup, the draw, and the window resize, are called at different times. And you don't get to decide that. This is P5 who decides it. You can create your own functions and call them the way you want. But in this case, these built-in functions, the setup is as we said, called once when you press the button here. Then the draw is called again and again in a loop. Right now you don't see that except when I resize. So you see that, it's happening. But we'll see when we want to make animations, you'll see how that works. And then window resized is called, well, when the browser notices that you're resizing the window, or it could be if I resize the whole window. Typically that would be that. But here it's contained within this preview, this sub window. And yeah, that's when the window resized is called. So only when an event triggers it. But yeah, the most important one probably, or the most important ones are the setup and the draw in particular, because it goes on and on and on and on every 60th of a second if everything is going well. And one way that we could show this is, for example, by printing to the console something. And when we say printing, it doesn't mean printing on paper. It means writing something in this area here that we saw at the bottom of the code. Console log and say I want it's like new frame. And here, well, you don't see it because it's printing the same thing, so it's aggregating it. But let me show you how this would work then. There's a variable in P5 that is called frame count. And that's the number of the frame. And so now, yeah, see, it keeps printing the number of the frame as we go. So you see that it's running very fast. It's running too fast for us to really see it update in real time. But yeah, we're already past 800 frames because it's 60 frames per second if everything runs correctly. Okay. So this console log function is something that's built into JavaScript. So even if you're not using P5, you probably will end up using it if you're doing JavaScript. And then inside of there we can print something that's a number, but we can also write stuff, or we can combine numbers and variables. Or sorry, numbers and what's called strings, which are pieces of text. Yeah. Okay. So, shall we make things interactive, or do we have questions? No questions? All right. Or requests? Anything that you want to see? Otherwise, we're going to go to interactivity, adding a bit more to this. Okay. So let's say we wanted to have our mouse do something to what we're seeing here. So I'm gonna remove 2 of the circles because 1 is enough for now. We keep this one. And what if instead of width and height, I wanted to have the circle follow my mouse? So, well, you can look it up, mouse. And I see there's something called mouse X, and that sounds like what I want. The system variable always contains the current horizontal position of the mouse. And you can see here that the example is interactive. So I can, here we're drawing a line that is following the position of the cursor of the mouse. So let's do that. Here too, mouse X, instead of width divided by 2. And here you can see that the position of the circle is now following the mouse. That's cool. Let's do it for the height as well. So if there's a mouse X, there's probably a mouse Y. And there we go. So now we have our thing following. Okay. And I'm going to show you a special trick. If I decide that I don't want to redraw the background every frame, what do you think will happen? If I remove the background, or if I comment it out, which is also something we haven't talked about. You've seen these. They're called comments. And they are code that will not be read by, it will not be interpreted. It doesn't draw anything. It doesn't print anything to the console. It's just there for you to take notes or explain your code to someone else that will work on it with you, or to yourself later. Very, very often that is what comments are good for. If you reread your code in a year or two, you will be happy that you explained what you were doing. So, or why you were doing it, which is a better use for the comments. So here, another use of the comments is not to take notes, but to do what's called commenting out a piece of code. And that means that instead of being interpreted, as you can see when it's colored like this, it becomes gray, and that means that it's now a comment and it's not going to run. So yeah, to ask the question again, what do you think will happen if I stop drawing the background every frame? We have animation people, maybe you can guess. Any idea?
It will be black, probably.
So the background will not be blue.
Transparent, sorry, transparent.
Yeah, that is correct. But what will happen to the circle? So see what we're doing here?
I think.
Yeah. So let's run it and you'll see. Okay. Is that what you expected? Right? So why is this happening? Yes, come again? I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I just said I didn't expect this, but I don't know under the hood what is happening exactly.
So what is happening? It's doing exactly what we told it to do, but that might still be a bit unexpected. And the key to this is really like understanding. If you can understand why this happened, you understand the draw loop, and this is very important for everything that follows. So this, as I mentioned, the draw loop is called again and again, 60 times per second, which is very fast and what is needed for something to look smooth as an animation. So when we draw the background every frame, we're essentially erasing everything that we've done before. We're doing the same. We're still drawing tons of circles, but you only see one, or you think you see one. Actually, if I move quickly, you can see more. But that's just your persistence, the retinal persistence that makes it look like there's more. But those are still all the circles that we're drawing. The difference being that since we're drawing the background every time, we are erasing everything that we've done before. So you can think of this way. Imagine think about how old, if you know how old celluloid film was made, or these animation. Let's look it up. Celluloid animation. So animation cells, they were painted on transparent sheets, right? So every frame is drawn on a separate sheet, right? So if you look at this one, this one was good. Yeah. So if you look at something like this, here you see like all the animation of this bird flying, and they are all overlapped here. But usually you would only see one of those every time. And the background is not changing here, and it's transparent because we only draw, every frame is transparent with the bird in a new position. And the bird here is just like our circle. And what we do when we draw the background is, instead of letting the background of the cell be, or the frame, in our case it's called the frame, be transparent, we just paint it all over every frame. So we start with the frame being empty, or sorry, the frame being full with blue paint, and then we draw the white circle in a new position. Does that make sense? So that's why you can't see it. But if I stop telling the program to redraw the background with blue, then it's just overlaying, like putting the new frames on top. And it keeps doing it. Even if I'm not moving the mouse, actually, it's still going. We can't see it because the circle is the same color and the same size. But if I decided that I wanted the color of the circle to be different, and let's do that so you can see it better. There's a function called fill, and we can give it a color. But in this case, I'm going to give it a random color. That's another function, random. And actually random 255, so it's in the range. So here you see, now it's a new color every time. So even if I don't move my mouse, it's still drawing a new circle every frame. It's really important that you get that part because then everything is going to be much simpler to understand and to debug when you get this fundamental idea. So I just want to make sure that this is clear for everybody. Is everybody with us?
I I have a question. If you wanted it to be that pretty cyan color that you had found,
Yeah.
would you just put the background on a different sort of function line, on its own function line, so it wouldn't be in the same one?
Yes, that's a very good point. So if we still wanted to have the pretty color in the back, we can do this right after we create the canvas in the setup, and then we do it only once. So now we're adding. Now the background is just like this, just like the background in this Disney movie. It's we can draw whatever we want in the setup, and that's basically our backdrop. And then everything we do is in those cells. If you wanted to do something that would be kind of similar to what we had before, but without redrawing the background, we could also just clear. We could also clear everything. I think that's how it's done. I don't really use this usually, but no, we cleared also the background. Okay, no, never mind. So that clears the background too. Yeah, no. Yeah, that would be a bit silly to do it this way. But yeah, that's how it would work. And we could put an image as well if we wanted. I actually, because we had several people who are already making visual art, that might be interesting to see how to use images. I think we're gonna do that, unless you have specific requests.
What if you wanted to put like letters inside the circles, or just like a symbol?
Yeah. Well, so letters. Yeah, we could. Well, a symbol that could be fun actually. Let me see. So I'm gonna comment out the circle, and we could do text. And I think text. How does it work again? I don't remember the order. And you can see like. Never feel bad for looking stuff up in the reference. I do it all the time, even after 10 years. Everybody does it. Everybody Googles stuff, how to do stuff. Professional programmers and developers, they Google stuff all the time. Nobody remembers every single way that you can do something. So it's totally normal to do it. So yeah, text has the content that we want to draw, and then I think that's the position we can check there. Yeah, so string, str is for string, and string is a string. It's called string because it's a string of characters. Each letter is a character, and yeah, so string object is a collection, an array of individual characters put end to end, or one after the other, and then we have the x and y. So the position. So here what we could do, and a string is typically, if I'm typing something as a string, I put it between quotes. It could also be a variable, but we haven't learned how to create variables yet. So I could do text, or a funny thing I could do is to use an emoji instead. So let's make a bird and give it the position of the mouse. X, mouse Y. And let's see if that works. Yeah, here you go. We could make it bigger. I think it's text width or text size. Text size, yeah. text size. So if you want to change something, and that was the case also for Phil. Actually, we're not doing it. Something I didn't mention before. If I want to set the text size, I have to do it before I draw the text. So I would do it here, text size, and that's like setting the parameters in a way for drawing the text later. And that's the same with color, but we'll see that in a second, I think. Okay, so text size 64. Let's say that's, yeah, there you go. Yeah, very good. So yeah, you could use that. It could be text. Get right bird. Yeah, and if you wanted it to be an image, well, this is also something we can do. And say, yeah, what kind of image would you like? What should we put there? To bird PNG. Tools, color, transparent. Okay, so yeah, I have a hummingbird clip art. Beautiful. Oh, that's a little too big. Size. Icon. Oof. Those are not very nice. Well, whatever. Well, I'll do the big one. It's all right. Okay, save image as. Hopefully, it's a real PNG. Let's just rename it hummingbird. Okay, I have it here, and I'm gonna go to the editor. And one thing I haven't shown you is that we have here the files that make up this sketch. So if I click on the arrow next to the sketch.js file, oh, actually I didn't save. Let me save. Yeah, that's important. So if I click on this little arrow here, I see that my sketch is actually already made of 3 different files, and we only need to edit the JavaScript one really. In most cases, but we do have an HTML file and a style file. Typically, you're not really gonna need to edit this, but if you start going a little deeper, you might want to look into it. But I don't want to confuse things too much for today. So what we're gonna do is sketch add folder, call the folder images. See, it created a folder here, and now I can go click here on the little drop down and say upload file, and I can just drag and drop my hummingbird here. Oh, it's not too big actually. Well, 4.3 megabytes. That's fine. Okay. And now, okay. So if we want to use images, we're gonna have to introduce a few new concepts. First of all, variables. Okay, I should have started with variables. So yeah, we have variables already. Like everything that's pink here is variables, and they are variables that are already built into P5. But if we wanted to create to have our own variables, like say we want to reuse a value in several places, and yeah, so say I'm going to remove the circle, the references to the circle for now. So say this bird thing here. I wanted to reuse it in several places. The bird text, but that would work also for numbers or colors or anything. Well, I can create a variable. So it would be done this way using the keyword var. There's another keyword called let that does more or less the same thing. There's differences, but it doesn't really matter for you right now. And if I called it word and say equal bird, here instead of bird, I could type word and I would get the same result. And you might be thinking, well, what's the point of this? Because it's just more work to do the same. But what's cool about this is that now I can reuse this in another place. So say I wanted to here console log my word when I start. Well, I could do this. And here it's writing bird in the console, and it's also writing it here. And if I change it here, if I say instead, I say snake. Now it's snake here and snake there. And I don't have to go and edit it here. Like otherwise you would have to do, if you did it this way, now I have 3 places I need, or 2 places I need to change it if I change it. But if I have a variable, I only have 1. Does that make sense? It can be a little complex of a concept to understand. The way that I like to think about it, I think about variables is like a box, and in this box you can put anything that you like. It can be a number, it can be a word, it can be something else. And on the box you put the label, and the label in this case is word. It could be like, my word, but I have to refer to it the same way everywhere. So yeah, so my word. So that's the box, and inside the box I've put the value snake, but I could put anything in there. I could also, I could put an emoji of a snake. That's also fine. See, and now it's writing it there. Emojis can be confusing. They look like images, but they're really words or characters. Yeah, is that okay for everybody? The variable thing? It basically is a value you can reuse in several places. Do you have questions on that?
I didn't really understand what that is. The console log?
Console log. Okay. So console log, it's a way for you to write something down here in the console. So you can use it. You can use it for debugging to get information about the state of the program at any given time. In this case, I'm using it for not really for anything. I could do. Let me see. I think that works. The word is, and then plus the word. Yeah. So I can combine a string here and a variable. And so say the word is this. And this way, it's a way for me to check that it got the right word. Word is bird. Okay. So it could be, like, I think the typical example would be username, because you're going to reuse that in several places. And if I say like username is Claudia, and then here would be, but that's the boring version. Hello username. And yeah, it would write hello Claudia. Does that make more sense? This is not something that people would see. This is for you. In your browser, there is a console. In any page that you've ever seen, there's actually a console, and you can access it if you type on Chrome, it's Control-Shift-I on Windows, or Command-Shift-I on the Mac. On Firefox, it's going to be something different, and elsewhere. But yeah, you can access the console, and then when you load a page, well, this one doesn't do much to show. Yeah, and in the console, you will see, well, this program has this page has some issues. Yeah, if I do it here, it might tell me other stuff. There's usually a lot of errors. It's yeah, and it's giving you like some system information, and that's mostly useful for people who created that web page. You typically never really have to go to the console for anything, but yeah, that's a way to check how your program is running, and you can write errors in there. or you can write debugging information. A classic way to use console log is to check where the program crashed, because you don't always know, it doesn't always tell you, and so you can log stuff here and here and here, and check at which point do the console log prints stop coming, and that's when the program crashed. So it would be something like writing inside draw, for example. Here I could print that to check, and like, yeah, we got inside draw, and it keeps going. Does that make sense? It's okay if not, I can explain it as many times as you need. Is that all right? Did that clarify it?
I'm gonna say yes.
You're gonna say yes? Okay. Well, what is what is still, you know, you're probably not the only one, so it's cool if you ask questions. I probably didn't explain something clearly enough, but yeah, the program's running, and it's it can also output stuff in the console, and that's yeah. Yeah, that's it. So but yeah, please keep asking questions if something isn't clear. Because right now I want to show you that variables can be used for different things. You can, as we said, you can use them to store numbers, you can use them to store words, and you can also use them to store anything like images, and that's what we're going to do now. Okay, so we have our image that is uploaded, but it's still not available in the program for us to do anything. For this, we need to tell the program where it's going to be able to find the image. And and so to do this, I'm going to create a variable that I'm going to call image, or let's call it img, and then, or say my image, call it that. My image, and yeah, and for now, I'm not going to give it anything, because to load the image, we need to do this at a specific time of the execution of the program. And there's a special function for this in P5 that is called preload. And this is before the page is even loaded. It's gonna put in memory all of the information that we need, and that includes images, for example, or any kind of assets that we want to make available. And for this, I'm going to use the preload function, preload. And there, my image equals load image. And my image is stored in images slash, and it's called hummingbird.png. Okay, so this should work. Let's try it. So see, now there's a loading. So it loaded the image. That took a little while. And the way that this works, and I didn't really talk about this, to put something in the box of your variable, you know, that is called here my image, you use the equal operator. And this is a different way to use the equal symbol than the way that you used it in math class. It doesn't mean that what's on the right is the same as what's on the left. It means that we take what's on the right and put it inside what's on the left. So this is going to have the value of whatever comes out of this on the right. So here in this case, we had my word is now equal to bird. It's like we're saying, please make my word be equal to this. It's more like that you should understand the equal operator here. And here we're saying, please make my image be equal to whatever comes out of the load image function when I give it the address of an image, and that's the image data. So my image now contains the image data, and we're going to be able to refer to it when we want to draw it. So I'm gonna here say, instead of drawing the text, so let's remove everything that was in draw. I don't want to draw text anymore, so we draw nothing. And now I'm gonna say that I want to draw an image, and we have an image function for this. My image, that we're passing it the image data. And we're going to give it a position as well. So let's do mouse X, mouse Y. I think that's the order. Let's see, of the arguments. Oh, yeah, it worked, but it's way too big. It's way too big. So let's see how the image works. Image, P5 image. No, that's not it. Image, what's the image function? Image method. Yes. So yeah, image, position. And we have more optional arguments for the size. So I think that's it. Yeah, and here it explains how it works. So position, width, and height. Yeah, and then there's more arguments, but let's not worry about that for now. It's already enough. So here I'm gonna say it's gonna be, well, I don't know what the proportions are, but for now we're gonna keep it like say 400 by 300. Okay, yeah, that's cool. That's still too big. Let's make it very small. It's nice. Yeah, it looks cool. Let's make it double that size. Yeah, that's cool. I think it was 4:3 ratio because it looks all right, but yeah, it could it could be wrong. We could stretch it if we got it wrong. You could see here that now I stretched our poor hummingbird. It gets all squished. Okay. Does that make sense? Do we have questions? What questions do you have?
Sorry, how did you upload the image again, please?
Yeah, no problem. So the way you can upload an image is go to. So when you have your sketch open, you open the folder on the side. Here you can do. There's several ways you can do it. You can do sketch, add folder, or add file. But you can also not add file. Sorry, add folder, and then. So you go here, create folder, add the images folder. That's optional, but it's just for to make sure that things are neatly sorted. And then you can go on the image folder, click the drop down, and click on upload file, and then you will be able to drop a file here or click on there to select an image from your file explorer. Was that clear?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, so now we're able to draw with a hummingbird. That's cool. One thing I noticed is that the cursor is at the top left of the image, and I would like it to be in the middle. So one way to do this is, I believe there's an image mode which can define how the position of the image is, or where in the coordinate system the image is positioned. And here, or what would you call this? Like the middle of the image is, or the handle of the image is right now the top left, and I want it to be in the center. So I can use image mode center, and I can put this before we draw the image, or I could put it in the setup if we're not going to change it later. Yeah, and now my cursor is in the middle of the hummingbird. That's cool. And the last thing I want to do is, because right now it's just drawing all the time, which is cool, but if we wanted to make a nice little drawing app, it would be nice if we could say, when I click the mouse, I will draw, and when I stop clicking the mouse, I will stop drawing. So we can do that. And so if we look again at mouse, we have mouse pressed, mouse clicked. So see, there's two different mouse pressed, mouse clicked. Which one is which? And mouse pressed, this function fires with any clicks anywhere. Yeah, that's cool. The mouse press function is called once after every time a mouse button is pressed. And how about mouse clicked? Mouse clicked. This function fires after the mouse has been clicked anyway. Wait, is that the same I was looking at? Mouse pressed. I thought there was a more obvious difference between the two. So yeah, okay. Mouse pressed function is called once after every time the mouse button is pressed over the element. Okay. And clicked once after mouse button is pressed and released over the element. It sounds like the same. It sounds like the same. I forgot there was a not much more of a difference. Anyway, so function mouse pressed. So we're gonna do that. And I'm gonna create a variable of a different type. It's not obvious that there are different types of variables in JavaScript. In some other languages, they make it a little more obvious, like a string will be called a string, and a number is going to be called a number, or a float or an int, which are two different kinds of numbers. In JavaScript, everything's a variable, and that makes for some confusion sometimes. It also makes some things easier. And there's another type of variable that is not an image, it's not a word, it's not a number, it's what's called a Boolean. And a Boolean is either true or false. So it's those zeros and ones that you hear about. So it's either true or false. And here I want to know whether I'm drawing or not, or I'm not. And I'm gonna call it is drawing. And it's gonna be false by default. You may have seen that there are sometimes some semicolons at the end of lines. In JavaScript, it's optional, so I'm not very consistent with it right now. I sometimes put it, sometimes not. There are cases where you might get into trouble if you don't put it, because some particular types of instructions are going to be interpreted weirdly, but typically it's not really an issue that you run into. So I've become a little lazy with putting the semicolons. There are languages where nothing will work if you don't put them, and JavaScript is not one of them. So yeah, isDrawing is false. I'm just running it to check that everything is still working. That's something you might want to do, even if you added code that is not doing anything yet, just to make sure that you didn't break anything while doing it. Because if you make a lot of changes and then you run, and something breaks, then you don't know which change that you introduced has broken your code. So even if you think you made a change that is inconsequential and didn't make any difference, it can be a good idea just to run the program again, just to make sure. So here I created my isDrawing, it's false, and when the mouse is pressed, I want it to be true, I guess. Oh wait. So called once, because it's gonna be while the mouse is pressed that I want it to be. Mouse clicked, mouse is pressed. Yeah, no, that's better. Yeah, let's use that for now. Mouse is pressed, because that's a variable. That's more convenient. There's reasons to use this. But yeah, for now we're gonna keep it simple. And actually, I'm not gonna need the Boolean either. I'm sorry for that. You're out. Bye is drawing. So in the draw, and this is interesting. We're going to learn something different, not variables, but conditionals. So if you look at the reference, here you can see something we haven't seen yet. That is an if. And an if statement, it does exactly what it says on the tin, which is that it check if something is true, and then if it is, it does something. You can decide what it does. And else, so if this is not true, then it does something else. In our case, what we want to do is that if the mouse is pressed, we want to draw the image. And if the mouse is not pressed, we don't want to do anything. So we might even skip the else because, yeah, we're not going to do anything if the mouse is not pressed. So I can say if mouse is pressed equal true. And here it's a triple equal. And that's because as opposed to the normal equal that says make it so, please make that this variable is be equal to this. This is actually a kind of equal that checks that the two sides of the operator are the same. So mouse is pressed is going to be true when the mouse is pressed, and otherwise it's going to be false. So if mouse is pressed and we have these curly braces, actually I haven't really explained this, but this is gonna, when you have to put these curly braces to say that something is inside of the scope of the thing above. So here, this function is encompassing all of these instructions, and the if I want something to be affected by the if, I have to put it inside the scope of the if, which is defined by these curly braces. And this is going to be our image. So see, inside of the draw, we check if the mouse is pressed. Inside of the mouse is pressed, we draw the image, but only if it's true. That was a lot. That was a lot. I'm aware of that. So so if that needs more clarification, please let me know. But for now, you can see if I click, I have my nice hummingbird. If I stop clicking, I don't. Questions? We have, I have more time, so if you need, if you have more time too, we can keep going a little longer. But yeah, we're already almost an hour and a half in. Questions?
Hey, Raphael, I have a question. I think that this might be too much for now, but is it possible to bring 3D models into this? What are the
Yeah.
formats or the limitations? I would appreciate if you explain this. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can do 3D. One thing you can absolutely do is draw 3D objects. Actually, if you do that, you need to set the canvas to be a 3D canvas. Right now, it's a 2D canvas. If I do this, some things are going to break. But yeah, the way that it works is to say, give the canvas a third argument that is the renderer, and it's going to be WebGL. I think this is going to break stuff. Yeah, so the coordinates are different in this case. But yeah, I could do I could draw a box as well now. For example, box, mouse X, mouse Y, and say 50. Let's see what it does. Oh no, the coordinates. Yeah, the size of the box aren't. Yeah, I got the arguments wrong again. The order of the arguments. I guess that's the way. No, it's still not. But yeah, so you can let's just show an example. That's going to be easier. Box. So yeah, here create a canvas that is WebGL and rotate the coordinate system and draw a box, and there you go. You have a box. The box doesn't have a X and Y. Yeah. That's yeah. You define the position with translations. That is something we haven't seen yet. But yeah, so you can do 3D this way, and you can also, I think, so OBJ. No. P5 JS obj import. Yeah, you can load a model with load model like here. And yeah, you can do a bunch of 3D things. It's not as well optimized for 3D as something like 3JS. But 3JS is also a lot harder to learn. Or let's not discourage anyone. You can learn it too, but it's a little less beginner friendly than P5JS is, and you can already do a lot of cool things with P5JS. But if you want to do 3D like the proper way, let's say, or more advanced 3D, 3JS is sort of the professional tool for it. But yeah, I myself tried to learn 3JS and I'm still not there because it's yeah, I was lazy, but but also it's a little harder to get into than P5JS. Where were we? Yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Definitely. Thank you very much. That was a great intro on getting into 3D. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Any other questions or things that, like we covered very first steps. So there's tons of things we haven't had time to look into, like more advanced animation stuff. I mean, one thing I could do is to show you what people are making with P5JS. Processing. So if you want to see what people are doing with open processing, you can go to with P5JS. Sorry, you can go to open processing, for example, which is it's almost like Instagram for P5, and people
Hey,
are
Raphael,
publishing. Yeah.
we have 3 questions on our
Mm.
chat. I don't know if you have you have access to the chat, the
I
third
guess I
cohort.
do. Oh yeah, let me go there.
Exactly.
Current Carter's work is 3JS. Let me check. I forgot. Current Carter. I don't know what they are using. If they're using 3JS or P5. Yeah, I forgot. That could also be P5, honestly. Yeah, beautiful stuff. So yeah, this is totally the kind of things that you could do with P5JS. And can we make sound? Yes, you can make sound. There's a sub library in P5 sound. And if you go to the P5 sound, it has its own reference, and you can go and make synthesizers with it. You can load MP3s or WAV files and play them. Yeah, there's lots of things you can do with sound. And you can also use your microphone as an input and do things that like create work that responds to microphone input. Can you show how Bezier works? Rotating stuff maybe too. Yeah. So yeah, Bezier. There's Bezier curves. The way that it works is you have a Bezier function and you define the position of your handles. And yeah, that's you can draw shapes. This way. You can also yeah, you also have, if you don't want to go the whole Bezier stuff, you can also use curve vertex, which is a little easier to do. So yeah, could create a shape and add vertices to it with the X and Y position. As for rotation, yeah, the way that this works, rotation is, so let me create a new sketch for this purpose. Saving this one. Let's rename it VC Tutorial Hummingbird, so I remember what it is. And yeah, so for rotation, so say I want to draw a rectangle. So let's, how's a rectangle? Yeah, so width divided by 2, height divided by 2, 100 by 100. Okay. Oh, there we would need to set the rectangle mode to center. Rect mode. That's like image mode, but for rectangles. Center. I'm going a little faster now because I'm just showing you how stuff can be done, not like step by step how to do it. And then rotate. Say one thing I really like to use is frame count for stuff. This is too fast. And yeah, so the position and rotation, this is getting into things that are interesting, but a little complex, which is to manipulate the coordinate systems. You will be able to find some help for this in the learn section, I think. Coordinate systems and shapes. Yeah, this is a good place to go and learn that. Oh wait. Essentially, you can change the coordinate systems. Yeah, what I was explaining, the coordinate system starts at 0, 0. But here I will want to have my square be in the center, so I would set it to 0, 0, and then move the whole coordinate system with translate. Translate, and this would be width divided by 2, height divided by 2. I actually have a piece that is that is exactly this. Yeah, there you go. And now it's rotating very fast, and we could make it slower by multiplying frame count by a smaller value. Yeah, I have a piece I can show you. That is just that. Let's see if it loads, because Hiketnung/Teja is always a little slow. Yeah, this is an artwork that is a rotating square, and it's slowing down for 1,000 years. So it will stop eventually, but in 1,000 years. And yeah, so see if you can find concepts that are not technically that challenging and make cool stuff with code without even with the simple skills that you've learned today, you can already make art. That is something important to keep in mind. You don't have to be a pro to make cool stuff with code. And yeah, if you want to see some more examples of work that I've done in the past, this is another series that I've made, which maybe I'll be able to show you. I'll just show you on Instagram, because these load very slowly, unfortunately. Yeah. So these are also made with P5, even though it looks like something else. But there's image assets for the grain, for the film grain, but all the rest is made with P5. Can you remove common resources? Yes, absolutely. That was what I was gonna share with you in the end. Anyway, I have a page, a Notion page that I made specially for that. It has some definitions, why choose P5, and probably the best that somebody mentioned at the beginning. The best way to get started is to follow the tutorial by Daniel Schiffman, who's an amazing teacher, probably one of the best teachers, period. And yeah, he's done an introduction to P5.js on YouTube, which you can follow. But there are also a lot of other people that you can check online who post tutorials. I'm on Twitch, so you can also follow me on Twitch. That's at Sable Raph. Same handle as everywhere. And yeah, I stream P5.js and code, and you can check every Sunday. I'm streaming the things that the viewers have submitted, the code, and we look at their code, and we try to learn some things out of what people have made. Some books that also very recommended. Nature of Code from Daniel Schiffman is great. Code as Creative Medium is also really nice, though it's also maybe a little more for teachers than students, but it's full of great references of artworks that others have made, some podcasts. And if you want to understand a bit more what people are making in the world of creative coding, I have a bunch of presentations by some artists that are famous in the field. I just realized now that most of all of those videos are by men, so I need to I need to do something about this. Yeah, there's a diversity of artists working with code. Don't get the wrong idea. And yeah, a bunch of communities. I run this one, the Burbs Nest, and it's full of really nice people who will be happy to help you, including myself, if you have questions. So feel free to join that. Yeah, that's it for that. Yeah, do we have any other
So
questions?
let's say that we were to make a very simple artwork like the bird one. How do you actually sort of export
Yeah.
it to share it? Like,
Yeah,
do you copy the code or?
yeah, that's a good question, and it has different answers. What you can do when you are on P5, if you just want to share it quickly, you can. So here I have saved it already. So what I could do is click File, then Share, and then copy the full screen link, and it will look like this. So I can send that link to someone, and then they can try it. But there will still be the header with the P5 thing here. Another way to do it is I could use open processing. So I could copy all of my code. I will need to import the image as well. Actually, on open processing, I'm not sure how that works because I don't really use it that much. But yeah, I could create a sketch and paste my code or write it directly on open processing and then share it there. Well, this is not going to work because the image is not there. But yeah, you could. Oops. Where was I? Okay, there. So yeah, you could use open processing. And another option is to mint it. For example, an FX hash, which is a little more involved, and there's more to it that we don't have time today to get into. But yeah, a lot of people are minting their work on FX hash, and then you can go and see it. It supports P5.js. It supports JavaScript, so it supports P5.js. What's cool about FX hash is that you basically minting a generator, and then every time somebody buys or mints a piece on in your FX hash collection, they get one variation of the artwork made by the generator you created. So yeah, for example, I made this collection of gems and they're all different, but they're all created by the same code, and they're also animated. Yeah, and this way it's going to be put on IPFS, and you can access it. So yeah, this is one of them, for example, and this is also P5.js. And yeah, as Santiago was saying, you can also mint on Theia or Versum. So Theia also has support for interactives. You can see, yeah, HTML SVGs. So yeah, you can mint code on Theia. There are explanations on how to do this on so what was it like on the Hiketnung interactive objects. Yeah, that's the one I think on GitHub. There's an explanation of how to make this. This is getting a little more involved. I have templates that I made for this. Oh, and Ana Lucia, you're here. Hey, hello. So yeah, if people want support for FX hash, you're happy to help. That's awesome. Yeah, FX hash is fascinating. It's great what you can make there, and yeah, definitely something that you can get into. There are explanations. There's docs. If you're just starting with P5, there will be a learning curve, but you can totally do it. Yeah.
And I guess
Yeah.
there's also just the option of exporting your work as a PNG or anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
yeah.
if you made a painting program like here, for example, and you want to export the image only, the static image, you can just right click and save image as, and that will work. So here I downloaded it, open it in the viewer, and yeah, here you go. It's a canvas is essentially by the browser is treated like an image. So you can just right click, save it, and that will work. Any other questions or comments? I hope that was fun. I hope you learned something. And yeah, if you have any questions in the future, please feel free to DM me on Twitter or Discord. I'm there. Or ask Andalusia.
Yeah, maybe I have a question for you.
Yeah.
More of like a general question. You've shared all the resources, which is great. I love the link that you shared because now I can share that link with other people also.
Please do.
It looks very comprehensive. But on a more general note, what would be your advice to people getting into creative coding? Because it can sometimes feel a bit daunting or there is quite a learning curve. So what would your advice be for that?
Yeah, I think take it one step at a time, really, because you can. I look at the work of some artists and I get overwhelmed because I think like, oh, I'll never be able to do this. Even now, I've been doing it for 10 years, and yeah, do things at your level, or challenge yourself to learn something new. That's also cool. But yeah, don't don't despair if you think you can't make the things that other people are making. They've probably been doing it for a really long time, and it takes time to acquire the skills that you need. But also, what I really want to stress is that and I've said it before, but you can already, with the things I've showed you today, and just maybe spending a few hours also just learning some of the rest of the basics, you can already make really cool stuff. It doesn't have to be technically complex to be technically interesting, to be artistically interesting or creatively interesting. Those are two separate things. And learning more technical skills is gonna expand the range of how expressive you can be with code. So that's a good thing. But don't worry too much about the technique. In the end, it's just a tool. And yeah, make projects. I think find a project that also makes it easier to learn stuff.
That's awesome. Thanks. Yeah, I agree.
All right. Yeah, it gives you something to aim for, and then you don't, you're not, if you're stuck somewhere, you're gonna find a trick to get around it because you have an ultimate goal that is not just learning. Because yeah, I mean, it can work. I think people have different ways of learning. So some people enjoy learning for learning's sake, but for many people, especially I feel for artists, having something you're working towards is helpful. And I would say also something I've noticed very often for beginners is sometimes people have a very specific thing that they're trying to make, and sometimes it's good because it gives you motivation, but that can also be a drawback if you're just starting to learn, because then you get too hung up on trying to achieve a very specific result, and then it forces you to take shortcuts that are not necessarily great at this stage. So be a little open to what you find on the way, and shift your shift your goal as you go along, as you see what is possible at your level. rather than absolutely wanting to accomplish one very specific outcome. Because creative coding is also, and that's why they call it a sketch, is it's also about the response you get from the medium, which is code in this case, as you develop it. And I didn't know I was going to make a hummingbird drawing app today. That's just sort of happened. This is kind of the ultimate version of that. It doesn't have to be that freeform. But what I feel like creative coding is great also when it becomes a dialogue between the tool and the artist, and I like to figure it out as I go along. And there is a point in the creative coders practice, or usually in one sketch that you're making. There's a point where you realize the potential of what you built, and that's when like you got something interesting. And it takes you by surprise. Usually you're just playing around with parameters or adding a new parameter, and then bam, there you see that it has an expressive potential that you didn't know it had until then. And you'll find this by experimenting. All right. So unless we have one more question or comment or anything, I guess that's going to be our show for today.
Super cool, Raphael. Thank you so much. It was super interesting.
Yeah, well, thank you for being there, for asking questions and being so involved. That was very pleasant for me as well. You can find me on Twitch, as I mentioned before. So yeah, I'm Sable Raph on Twitch. No, wait, channel. How do I get there? Yeah, my channel is there. A bunch of burbs, and yeah, and on Twitter, I'm also Sable Raph on Twitter. And that's where I post my work usually most of the time. Yeah, that's it. If you need more resources or stuff, please feel free to write, and I'll try to share more specific things. And have a beautiful rest of your day.
Man, this was incredible. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you
I have
for
a question.
putting this
We have
time to
another.
teach us this stuff.
Sorry, you were talking on top of each other. I didn't catch that. Yeah.
I was wondering if there's a second class. I have it in my calendar for next week, or is that just a reschedule?
Oh, that might be actually. I didn't get the. Yeah, I think my calendar is always like not working with the invitations from VCA. So yeah, might be. Then we would do the. I guess we would do the actual minting and stuff. That was the way that was last time. So that would make sense. Mathilde, if you can confirm that, I will.
Yeah,
I
I
will add it.
confirm. We have advanced the course of.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yes,
great.
so
All
yeah,
right.
it will be
Yeah.
a
Sorry,
part
that
2
was.
of this. Yeah.
Okay, we discussed this such a long time ago. I didn't have it anymore. But yeah, so yeah, next week then we will get into templates for Teja and Hiketnung, and yeah, maybe a little bit of FX hash. But yeah, 1 hour and a half is a bit short to cover everything. But yeah, we can talk about minting interactives, and yeah, we'll try to cover FX hash as well. All
Perfect.
right.
See you guys. Bye. Have a lovely day. Bye.
See you. Bye bye.